So welcome everyone. And mostly welcome Zsofia.
Hi.
And Savine.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to be here today, this morning. So I was thinking about hair this morning. It's interesting. In fact, it's really quite amazing what biology has been able to create. For me, the phenomenon of hair is beyond historical and emotional, it's biological. It's a long journey of adaptation, of survival, of sexual attraction, of reproduction, and of death. So we can look at hair from many ways, and I'm sure you have. For example, the idea that cells can produce keratinocytes. Keratinocytes was an amazing innovation. Keratinocytes are organelles inside of cells, and these can take a number of proteins, 11. In total, there's 20, but 11. And of these 11, it can take 2 specific kinds of proteins, which is cysteine and methionine. Very interesting, because both cysteine and methionine produce sulfur. And so we have this idea that sulfur with sulfur, I can, in the keratinocyte, begin to weave. I can construct a structure of asymmetrical proteins twisting in space, and then creating 2 proteins cysteine, 2 proteins methionine. Do you get the picture? Over time, this creates keratin, which is a long weave of proteins like DNA into a fiber, a very, very, very small fiber. And then those fibers can complicate with other fibers, and they can generate superstructures, and then they can generate imperfection, and then imperfection with imperfection creates scama or scale. And then a metaphor is the cell takes skin and it lo afila, like a pencil. And then you have keratin growing in a helical structure. Wow. And of course, fractal mathematics says if you're helical and you grow helical, you create helical. And that's the hair. And so now you have a hair with a hollow inside. And biology goes, ta-da! Now I can cover my precious skin from the cold because I have a hole, and that creates thermal insulation. Because keratin has sulfur, very stable in water. It can deflect sunlight. It can protect the skin from abrasion. It can make you beautiful. I mean, look, right? And so we see this natural selection of, oh, I like that hair, right? And then slowly over the millennia and the millions of years, you have cultures that have specific types of hair. Long hair, short hair, curly hair, blonde hair, red hair, no hair. And then so you have this really quick descent from chemistry and life into culture and view and art and beauty. And we develop a whole system of values. For example, I have no hair. That's interesting. Well, it's not true. I do have some hair, but I decided to cut it. And so, why? Right? It's an issue of aesthetic, perhaps, right? It's a communication. And so, quickly we go from this idea of a material that is functional, thermal, into something that's beauty, into something that is race, is gender, age, species. But then what happens? And this is what I was thinking about this morning. Something that was you, something that was your beauty, in a quick snip becomes foreign, becomes waste, becomes the past, becomes ugly. How is that possible? I wonder, is it the scissors or is it the mind? And so quickly, I understand now. Today, I understand the meaning of taboo. To me, the meaning of taboo is lost love. It's the dichotomy between attraction and hate. It's the switch. I have taboo because I cannot accept that I love my waist. And so I wanted to start with that as a reflection, because I'm sure you have much more to say about this. In fact, my question to you is, why? Like, what motivated you? What were those things, if you don't mind expressing, Zsofia?
That exact same thing that you just said, that one split second that the scissor goes into your hair and cuts it and it reaches the floor, and that feeling that you all of a sudden feel that this is repulsive, this is not me anymore, and how that one single move can remove so much meaning of that piece of hair that you just had the most precious piece on your body, because you do so much care and energy and time and money spending on your hair to look good. And that's the most precious piece on your body, because that's what people see when meet you first. Your hair tells so much about you, your age, your political views, your gender identity, your origins. But once it's cut, it just lost its value and gained something very repulsive, very negative. And when I started looking at hair, and as a designer, I was like, how can I give value back to this material? How can we treat it again that it will be precious, as precious as it was on your head? Because nothing changed, just that one cut.
Good point.
Yeah, I totally agree with Zsofia. Like, your approach, you spend so much time and love when you have the hairs on your head, but from the moment you cut it, you feel disgusted by it. It's not yours anymore. But why? It is still this valuable material, and there's so much story behind it, like how you like to wear it, how you've colored it. Maybe you want to look like someone else and you try to dress like them. It's all been there in your hair, but from the moment it falls on the floor, you don't want to look back anymore.
That's interesting, because people also they can change their style of hair over time. And so hair is such a chronological timestamp of periods of your life. In fact, when I work with hair in the laboratory, one of the things that you can measure, okay, is the health of a person. You know, the health. It's like, you know, there can be impurities, there can be, you know, heavy metals, and so hair is an incredible filter, right? It absorbs a lot of things, and it absorbs meaning, and it absorbs history. Also, the idea of color, which is very interesting. I was looking around the projects yesterday, and I saw these really different. Like, you would never see a person with naturally extremely blue hair. That just doesn't occur as a protein, right? Because the proteins are what colors this. But also just how much hair? How many people are we in the world? all of us grow hair of some kind. In fact, most people grow about 0.5 gram a day. That's not much weight, but it's quite a bit of volume.
Especially with 8 billion people.
You could do a very quick back of the envelope calculation of how many tons of hair that would be, right? I mean, do you guys see that could there be an economy of hair?
There is already an economy based on hair, but at the moment it's based on the long hair as an economic value. And my mission personally is to give economic value to the waste hair that has been neglected and not been utilized currently. And I absolutely believe that we can bring economic value to this waste material that goes to the floor in most of the hair salons and create value from it.
Because hair is there's a lot of volume in hair, right? I mean, it's mostly surface, if I understand it correctly. I mean, what do you think is the barrier, Savine? Do you think, is there a barrier?
Yes, what I've learned throughout the month of working with hair, that people are not always accepting it yet. People have assumptions from it. They feel like it is not someone that I know, so baby, I want to get rid of it. It's already that difference, but it's definitely with your own material as well. You don't want to have it. And I always try to question them, and I want to have the dialogue with them, and I say, yeah, but why? Because we wear wool, we don't know the sheeps. So what is the difference? And then they start to recognize their problem, basically, their wonder. And they say like, yeah, you have a point. Okay, I will come back to you later. And then they come back the same day or the day after, and they say like, yeah, you changed my mind, or I haven't, and then it's also fine. Because people need to come along in this process of accepting their own material and the resource that we have so close to us.
And there is also an interesting concept about that you do accept hair from other people when it's the same form as a wig or extension or eyelashes, that it's still relatable to the origin form of the material. But when you transform that material, that's when we can't cope with the mindset that what is this transition, and then you question and reject this transformation of the material into something else that's not hair anymore.
Because of course hair can be transformed, right? Because there's many ways we can conceive of this material. Hair is a word, really. It can mean many things. But hair to me, for example, means structure. And you can take hair, and I saw you guys were working with sodium hydroxide, probably to open up and soften the hair by destroying it somehow. I know there are some articles as well that are finding new ways how to break down keratin from hair and make fertilizers for plants. You can make glues, and you can make sustainable coatings for biomedical applications. So hair, I mean, do you guys see hair as more of like a traditional, or is it more like techno-punk, or is it future AI? How do you see it?
I see hair as the solution to so many problems that humanity have created. And finally, we humans can be the solutions for the problems that we have created, because we produce so much of this raw material, and finally we wouldn't have to exploit the land or other animals to harvest and make products for our own skin, because if you look at it, we are the only species that we take a foreign material and cover and protect our bodies. And why is that a strange concept, to cover your body from your material? Isn't that strange that we are so accepted to foreign materials? If an alien would come to Earth now, what would they think? Like, why are we using all these different materials when we do have it? Because nature is incredibly smart. It engineered this material to grow on our most precious organ, on our brain, to protect it. So why can't we use this material as well to protect our whole body?
It's very interesting, isn't it? In fact, I would like to go better in depth with both of you in terms of your views on hair and what you think the public should know. regarding your experience and what you see for the future. But thank you so much for this debate. Does anybody have a question before we proceed to the presentations? Or any comments?
Thank you for being here with us today, explaining these interesting materials. I have a question. I see that your jacket is also made with hair. At the time of knitting, you said that not only the long hair, but also the other hair, no, that falls very short.
Yeah.
Is that how do you make it? The short to make it a yarn that holds.
Yes, so we have developed a technology that increases the friction between the fibers, so we are able to spin it into a yarn on high pressure.
So with pressure, it holds together and makes.
It's a two-step processing before it goes into the spinning mill, and then after the process that is manipulating the surface of the hair, so the friction is increased, then we are able to use the very short, from 3 centimeter long hair into a continuous staple yarn.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, yeah. So do you think that this technology is the two-step process can be used for either other yarns, short yarns, or is it specific to the hair chemistry?
Personally, I do believe that we have to use our own waste to make a radical and sustainable change for the planet. I can imagine that other fibers can be also used. I only investigate hair.
Sí, bon dia i gràcies pel vostre treball, em sembla magnífic. Només recordar que a les illes Trobriand, al Pacífic, els riglocs es feien servir com a cordes.
Es que no entiendo bien el catalán, pero
I
can try. I might not get
el
it right.
traductor. Sí. Pues bueno, pues lo digo en castellano y ya está, ¿no?
Solo os lo traduzco yo.
Sí, bueno, que muchas gracias por vuestro trabajo.
Thank you very much for your work.
Recordar solamente que en las islas Troyan, en el Pacífico, los riglocs se utilizaban como cuerdas.
There are people that use hair as strings.
De acuerdo, es muy interesante. Esta es una tecnología evolutiva de la cultura humana. Y bueno, y otra cuestión, yo me rapé hace 3 meses. Y yo tengo el pelo rizado. Y hice una donación para las mujeres que tienen cáncer y necesitan una peluca. La necesitan estéticamente, ¿no? Y emocionalmente. Y pienso que este es un trabajo también a pensar, ¿no? Se ha utilizado desde hace, desde hace un tiempo hacia aquí. Gracias.
Thank you for sharing.
Gracias por
Hi, thank you. Just a question of scale, like how many years, based on the normal growth of hair for one person, would it take to make our own jacket?
It's quite relative, depends on your own amount of follicles that you do have. On average, hair grows 1.5 to 2 centimeters a month. And it's also quite relative. So for example, I used to have a longer hair and I kept my hair from the brush for over 2 years. I could make like a little jumper.
I don't have sound. 2 years of collecting your hair. out of brushing to be able to make this jacket that you're wearing.
Yeah, but I also consider that there are people with a lot thicker hair than I do have. So it might be taking a shorter amount of time or longer, depending. It's highly individual.
Thank you. Enlightening.
Also, just one more point, because there seems to be two questions related to this, which is, there is such an idea of keeping materials pure. In other words, something made only of hair. And that is a great solution for obvious reasons, which is you have one material. So you have, the characterization, the properties. Okay. Another one is to use, of course, diverse types of hair. Okay, so some have different shapes that can give mechanical advantage. They can create sponginess. So we can do all kinds of other types of textiles. Another version yet is to do chemical cross-linking treatments to keratin, which you can do. And these are molecules that can bind keratin with keratin. And so on a molecular level, you are creating a cross-polymerization process. So you can actually extend hair in this way. And then another one yet, and this will, I promise, will be the last, but the last one is mixing hair with other types of fibers. In fact, hair mixes really well with rubber because of the sulfur. It mixes really well with cellulose because amino acids have COH groups, which are acidic, and then cellulose has OH groups, which are alcohols. And so you have a chemical reaction, and therefore cellulose with hair could be, for example, a really good sustainable solution for larger quantities, let's say. Yeah. But so I would like to invite you to perhaps, thank you so much for the questions. Let's give a round of applause for our presenters. And are you going to present first? Yeah. Okay.
You can also just stay.
I'm quite much in the way. I was there.
No, but you start.
Sorry? Oh, I start. Yes, also fine. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Savine. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm going to present you my project that I graduated with on the Design Academy in Eindhoven. The project calls haar haar, what means in the Netherlands her hair. I always had this relationship with hair myself. My grandparents used to have a hair salon themselves, and around that time my grandparents passed away. And also to honor them and to show them my love for hair as well, I wanted to dedicate this project to them. But besides that, when I was young, I used to braid my own hair. I had really long hair, but also my sister and my classmates were one of the models, basically. And I wanted to experiment. There was so much fun in there. I just saw this like handcrafting moment while having it wearing on your head. But from the moment it falls on the ground, we don't want to interact with it anymore. We feel disgusted by it, but why? We have our relationship, but to who does it belong when it falls on the floor? Is it still yours? Can you take it with you? Yeah, you can, but what do you do with it anyway? But maybe we should, and maybe we can collect a little bag from all the years that we cut our hair and we make a sweater, a scarf, a hat. So I realized there was so much waste that we would just end up in the landfills, not only from the hairdresser salon, but also from hair extension salons. This is mainly something that we have seen more recently. happens a lot in America, but definitely also in Europe and in the Netherlands. And it strikes me crazy that from an age of 30, people start to wear hair extensions because they want to have a more volume hair or longer, or just to want to have a play around basically because they're maybe bored of their own hair. But from the moment they start wearing it, they can't stop. They can't start to become addicted to it almost. So till an age of 70, they keep on wearing their hair extensions and they have to change it twice a year, which means that someone who is collecting hair for the hair extensions needs to save up their hair for almost 12 years for only 1 year of wearing. Why are we doing this? But on the other hand, you have the freedom of trying out in different styles, and it's nice to have the possibility of playing around. When I started to see if I could make the hairs into a yarn, I discovered that there's a different kind of way of working, spinning it compared to wool. But we don't accept wearing hair yet. So can we make it in combination with wool maybe to start this conversation piece? We do wear wool, we're fine with it, we are really happy that they keep us warm in the winter. And so I wanted to make this yarn in combination with those two materials to start this conversation piece, to take people along in their acceptance. And what I told you earlier, people need time maybe to discover that it is okay to wear it. Or they don't, fine. They come back to me later on maybe, or they keep on wondering and maybe someday it will click. So I want to bring people along in the acceptations of wearing hair, what we do with wool. So I made some pieces, but I'll take you through the process of it. Fibers, just like wool and hair, they need to be in the same direction. From then on you can spin it into a yarn. My power or my interest basically is to really focus on craftsmanship. The fact that we know how to spin a yarn, the fact that you feel the yarns going through your fingers makes it so personal. I start to wonder, from who were they, the hairs that I'm collecting now? I can't see a face, but can I imagine the person maybe? What was their relationship? Were they happy with their hair? Or was it a rapid cut off at the hairdresser salon that they did? So from hours of spinning, I spun quite some meters of yarn. And from there you have more possibilities of making it. Just as textile, you need a yarn, and from there you can build new things. But also the process of using hair extensions. I collect kilos of length, long, short, colored, dyed, everything is in between. And individually I place them into my weaving loom, just like what I'm wearing at the moment. And from there, we are ready to make things. Let's see what we can come up with. So this is my end result of my graduation project, haha. In the middle you can see a fully woven piece from hair extensions. You can see that it comes over the shoulder and it extends basically your own hairline. And at the sides there are two hats combined with different kind of lengths, colors from the hairdresser waist. And I want to make hats because I want to bring them literally back on your heads, the place where you loved it so much before. So here I have more an insight of what the materials looks like. They're really spiky, so it's still very playful, but also this warmth of the wool and the combination of the shininess of the hair makes it a really vibrant material. And also the characteristic of the hair extensions mainly, they're really shiny. They have this, the galaxy basically shininess on there. I brought some pieces with me to also let you feel what the material feels like. I will give you one if you like, from the other side. I want to say this is hair that is coming mainly from Russia. They color it for 3 weeks. They take out every color and then they have the variety to color it in any color they like. And the crazy thing about this, I still don't believe it, but this is waste in their opinion. they don't see the value of it anymore. There's little spikes in there. It's less beautiful. So they replace it every 6 months. Thank you for your attention. That was my presentation. Yes, of course. Tell me. No, wait. Can I come back? There you go. So no, I hang them on my weaving loom, and individually I cut them off and then I place them into my loom. And it really depends on the way I prepare the loom, how the pattern looks like. No worries. But there's also possibility to spin them into a yarn. Yeah, yeah. The hair extensions, there is more long hairs. I also use the short ones. Then I use them in my carding and then I spin into. But yeah, from 1 centimeter or 3, I can spin it and I can make a yarn out of it. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I repeat my question. Since I'm a Chinese, I have a very black hair, and since all Chinese have black hair, so I didn't realize people from North European or much European people have such blonde hair and look so different from the hat. So I just wondering if the hair hat has different color. So what's the difference from this physical property from the sunshine, because it reflects different quantity of the sunlight. So what's about research by this part?
Yeah. The thing is, the hair what I collect, it's a hair salon in the Netherlands. It's in Eindhoven, and the characteristic of that place is that there are a lot of internationals coming there as well. So there also should be people from Asia, maybe China even, that cuts their hair. So I can't tell anymore from who it is, because it's just a bunch. And then I have to select one of them, and then I have to be very careful of saying which hair from who. What is not your question?
No, I realize another question.
Tell
it's because I believe this must be some relative from the race and the environment surrounding. Like if I have somehow black eyes, that means the sunshine that land is not as strong. But if north part of Europe, sunshine in the snow be super strong. Mm-hmm. So in this case, it might be virus different. That's why we develop different races to. Not races, I mean race.
Adapt to the place where you
live.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about if there is a certain place, maybe we could find the average color of the hair to respond the surrounding. It's something I don't know. It's some question I just find.
It is something that I thought of during my process. Maybe I'm gonna travel through Europe and see also the differences through Europe, what hairs change, because you already see the differences between the Dutch or the Sweden hair to the Spanish hair. There is already a difference in there. I haven't really had the time or the space to discover or really search into that. But it's maybe something, a project too, that we can collaborate with. You never know.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Is there a possibility of changing the color of the hair? I mean, for example, with wool you can color it and it can be the color you want, but with hair, is like difficult or is
They do. For the hair extensions, they put it in bath for like 3 weeks, and they take every color out, and then they color it in the color that the customer wants, basically. I don't want to go that way. I really want to see the material as it is, and then from there I want to make new things, because there already are so many characteristics in their hair, and if I'm gonna color it, I'm getting rid of the persons maybe even that they has been from. So yeah.
Thank you.
So, do you do different hairdos to your necklace?
Sorry, what do you mean?
I'm just saying because we manipulate hair, our hair a lot. We do different haircuts. I was wondering whether in your design process and in your product, you thought that this material is still alive, so that, for example, the necklace that you have today looks like that, but tomorrow it has a different hairstyle.
I have been thinking about curling the hair extension this morning. Curled my own hair, but I was like, should I do it? For now I didn't. But I gladly have now a weaving loom that I can continue making more things. And this is something definitely that I want to see if it's suited as well for the project.
Yes, I guess that since the material should be considered still alive, you could have a jacket that you change its look with different hairstyles.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for mentioning.
Hi. I just want to know how you take care about the things, the pieces that you do. Do you use like shampoo or something like that to clean them, or I don't know how to...
So for the hats, I use the same technique that the hat makers do. So they steam it and they brush it. I never had to wash it before, but yeah, shampoo is the way. Yeah, it's the same.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I wonder if you ever paid for the hair you used to experiment with, or it was always for free?
Always for free. It's waste. So instead of bringing it to the big bins, they put it on post and they send it to me.
Because hair extensions and like wigs and these kind of things are actually super expensive. So can you imagine how long it would take till hair for your experimentation or your project is going to be paid?
The fact that I'm only using waste material means that I don't have to pay for it, unless they are gonna ask me to. But yeah, they don't use it anymore. They can't use it. So instead of giving it to the bin, they give it to me. So they can't do anything with it anymore. So yeah, they rather make me happy with it. So yeah, makes me happy as well.
So if you have to pay for it in a short period of time, you will stop experimenting with this?
I think I would see other hair salons. There are so many, it's crazy. So no, if one of them is gonna say like, nah, we like you to pay for it, I'm like, yeah, but why? What do you want to do otherwise with it? Maybe if the industry changes, maybe I'd take a step back, because then there's already another change. They already found a solution. I made one solution, but there are so many other ways to look into this material. Yes? Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Zsofia Kollar, and while we set up the slide, I just wanted to ask you, did you ever think about when you went to the hair salon to looking all that hair on the floor? Did you ever thought about what's going to happen to that material on the floor? Maybe hands up who crossed your mind? And my second question is, what do you think about my blazer? What if I told you that this one is made of the waste from 5 hair salons in Amsterdam? But my main question is, what is the value of human hair waste? Because as long as it is on our head, it's fine. But once it's left it has a strange feeling for many of us. But let me take you to my journey, how my journey with hair as a foreign material started. So I was still at university in 2016, and this was the very first tapestry piece I made out of human hair. Because I was just so fascinated that hair is embodied in every culture. There is no part of this world that hair wouldn't be significantly seen. If you are getting married, if you are divorced, if you are transitioning from girl to woman, from boy to man, there are so many associations, so many meanings. It can be your power. They can abuse you for your hair. They can exploit for your hair. There is so much emotion, meaning, and power to hair. And in the Western world, once it's gone, it's just waste. So 2016 really started something in me to see this material in a different perspective. And this time I was using extensions because I just really wanted to show that hair doesn't have to be seen something repulsive, but it can be really beautiful as a material. And let's treat it as something beautiful. I also experimented with different ways of hair, how I can implement it in my own practice. For example, 1 kilogram of hair can absorb up to 8 liters of oil. Perhaps some of you already see some of the hacks that they do to clean up some oil spills in the oceans. But then if you think about it, we can also infuse hair with essential oils. And then we can also scent our spaces. So then I created this brass object filled with hair and started dripping them with lavender oil, peppermint. And my whole studio was smelling incredibly good that everybody from the floor was coming, "What are you doing here, Zsofia?" And I was like, I'm just using hair as a carrier for scent. The most natural material we can imagine, pure oil and our own hair. But looking at hair as a material, actually hair is nothing else than the same keratin protein fiber as wool. Of course, there are some differences in the structure of our hair and the wool from the sheep or alpaca, but it's pretty much the same fiber. And we are so used to and fun using hair from other animals. Also, just did you think why we call wool from sheep wool, and why not just hair from the sheep? Because then we created that distance that we don't think about the animal hair. But then years of research and my mind ticking on what can I do with hair and what's my responsibility as a designer triggered something. And in 2021, I founded Neomatèria Loop. We are a material innovation company focusing on developing technologies, materials, and products from waste human hair. Because if you look at the whole world now, it's pretty much collapsing. Supply chains are unreliable. We are shipping things from foreign continents back and forth constantly. We are exploiting land, people, and every part of this ecosystem for our own good. But what if we can change this entire system? Because what grows in today's world? 2 things: our waste streams and population. So if you look at the population growth, that also means a lot more hair growing around the world. And humans live almost every part of this world. So we can have this globally available raw material everywhere. We don't have to ship back and forth. And if you look at the supply chain, if we would integrate human hair into the production of textiles, for example, we can source it everywhere locally. We can also boost local economies, reduce the waste streams of our cities. And then you might wonder why. Why are we doing this to make a change? Why are we want to introduce human hair as a raw material in the global textile production? Well, there are many, many reasons, but let's start with the most disturbing one. Because the textile industry is the second most polluting industry in today's world, just after the oil industry. It pollutes water, releases toxic chemicals into the environment, degrades soil, exploits animals. Not also mentioning the ethical labor that so often comes with the production of textiles. And considering that also the material usage we are using, just think about how often do you change your items? How often do you put your clothing to the landfill, to the garbage? Because they are not good quality, they are not trendy anymore, don't mean much anymore. Because they are just so fastly produced. So if you want to see some really disturbing numbers of the textile industry, how much carbon it emits, how much chemicals it's using, how much water is polluted just from the production of textiles, and the microplastics. Because more than 60% of the global textile production is now synthetics, polyester, acryls. But what does that mean? It does not only mean that it will stick around for 400 years, at least in our backyards and landfills, but it also means that it releases insane amount of microplastics to the environment. Why is that bad? Because that microplastic ends up in your blood and in your lungs. And we don't even know the direct consequences, what that means. But it's not good. Because now you have 77% sitting here right now that you have plastics in your blood. Maybe it's even 100% now. And also just look at it. 2 billion animals in the textile industry are suffering for own fashion. And on average per year, 91 million tons of textiles are dumped. 91 million tons. So our goal is by 2033 to integrate 500 million kilogram human hair into the textile production system. Because we don't want plastics in anybody's blood. And because land shouldn't be degraded and used for the production of fibers, we should produce healthy food in this soil, and soil is important for the whole healthy ecosystem. And we also want to integrate hair to the textile production because animals are actually our friends. Let's treat them like that. And we just really want to cut off the emissions for the production of textiles. But you might think hair. We all know hair. You touch hair, you've seen hair. But how was in the history before? Because since the first and second industrial production, we forgot to use materials that were so available and just next to us. But back in the days, it was no strange thing to use hair as a material. For example, there is this beautiful story of a temple in Japan, that the temple burned down, and they couldn't pull up the beams to rebuild the temple. And all the ladies in the village cut their hair. They made these massive ropes so they could pull up the beams and rebuild the temple. And that was no strange. They used to make ropes for horses and other animals from their own hair, because that was available around them. Or making socks and sandals. But also another beautiful story from South Africa where the bride is wearing a hat made out of the mother's hair. Or making embroideries. And also in the current recent fashion, for example, Alexander McQueen in the first collection, he put his own lock of hair into every garment to make it more emotional. Because once you also put emotional value to something, you will most likely not discard it. Me and the human material very much believes that ecosystem needs to change from the ecosystem to the ecosystem. Because we humans, we are part of this ecosystem and not above. So using human hair to develop high-performing textiles, that's our biggest goal. And we are developing different technologies for it. This is one of our first prototype sweater, 100% human hair, collected from Amsterdam's hair salons as well, to prove we can really make a garment that if I wouldn't tell you this is made out of human hair, you might think this is not my color, not my style, but you wouldn't say, I'm disgusted, what is this, please. On another prototype sweater, also 100% human hair. Just imagine those sheep in the background can be left alone, happily running in the fields. On the blazer I'm wearing. But then there are also, hair has a lot of different properties as well. So hair actually is engineered to be on our head because it protects the most important organ, our brain. And it has extremely good thermal properties. So last month in January, my co-founder went to the highest mountain outside of Himalayas, 7,000 meters in Argentina, in a jacket and pants filled with human hair. Minus 40 degrees, extreme wind, and the gear we developed outperformed the best gears currently in the outdoor industry. The best gears currently produced are using down feathers. It has an extremely good properties, but looking at the environmental and ethical point of view, how much ducks are suffering to have those feathers, even if it's recycled. That is one advantage of using human hair as a thermal insulator, because once feathers are wet, they collapse. Therefore, they don't provide thermal insulation anymore, because what really gives you warmth is the air pockets between the fibers. But hair does not collapse. So he was even had to unzip his jacket and the summit because he just felt warm. So can you see that from this, we arrived to this one? The transformation from our own waste to products that can actually make you look good, feel good, and don't disturb the environment. So join for the biggest revolution of humankind, because finally we can be the solution to the problems we have created. And we don't have to use other plants, lands, and animals for our own good, but we can be the solution for our problems. Yes, thank you.
¿Lo puedo decir en español y alguien me traduce? Ah, vale, perfecto.
One second. You can put the translate.
¿Crees que sería... Bueno, primero, gracias. Muchas gracias. ¿Crees que sería posible un mercado así de otros residuos humanos, por ejemplo, las uñas?
Many times people ask why we have also human material loop as a name and not hair loop. Of course, we have also other materials in the pipeline. But what it's human hair is because it's such a big amount of hair that produced by hair salons. The logistics system and the infrastructure we could build on that, it's just so efficient. And with nails, I think it's very often happens at home when people cut their nails, or if they do it in a hair salon, it's not such a big volume.
Hola. Sí, lo voy a decir en español, así me expreso mejor. A mí me gustaría saber, no sé si existe algún estudio o algo acerca de si el pelo puede producir algún tipo de alergia, igual que lo puede producir la lana u otros materiales, y si... bueno, esta como primera pregunta, y luego también...
I will answer first. So the great thing about hair as a material that humans cannot be allergic to human hair. So it's also the most hypoallergenic material that we can use. And because it's the same keratin protein fiber, so you could argue like why do we have allergies for dog hair, cat hair, wool? But it's because the sweat of the animal. That's what actually develops allergies in us, and it's almost impossible to process it out from the production of wool.
Vale, luego... no sé muy bien, o sea, no sé cómo funciona el proceso porque no lo he visto realmente. ¿Crees que existiría la posibilidad de poder generar como patrones tipo como pues el de una camisa o algo así con diferentes pelos de diferentes... me estoy imaginando algo tipo así como blanco y negro. No sé si existe una manera de poder generar como estos patrones como si fueran tejidos, como cualquier otro material.
Yes, so that's our goal as well, to just produce the most ordinary fabric. That's how weavers are already using it. So I don't have a photo here, but I can show you some samples after, where we also woven different patterns, different colors together. So it really works just like any other yarn that you are weaving with.
We're just going to join.
Sorry, I'm going to repeat my radical ask about human skin. We are really familiar with using leather from animals, and yeah, but I've been thinking I have a really good relationship with my family, and maybe I can sign if I die early. You can use this to study or to develop something, because we are always using others for our approaching. So that's what you said. We can be what you said, the solution for our problems. So that's really lovely, and it's important also to lose the fear of dying. Hair is also dying when it's cut or transformed. We are transforming. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
It's an interesting thing that you thought about the skin, because that would be quite a cruel process to get off from the body. But what I can really imagine that lab-grown meat is now getting almost to the market, so we could also just lab-grown skin, and that could be, I think, the best alternative to animal leather.
Yeah, and it's part of it's okay. So. In reality, nothing is impossible, right? As long as you don't violate physics, the laws of physics, and some other 346 laws of the cosmos, you can do anything. Okay, so material is a concept. Okay, I think the thing that becomes painfully clear is that when we're using words to describe things, on one hand, we're communicating something, right? I say hair, and there are, 60 different concepts of hair. But really, there's no limit, because hair and skin and nails, like we were mentioning earlier, have very similar structures. They're a little bit different in the way that they are configured. Hair is more structure, therefore you get more efficiency. Skin is a biopolymer which has fats included. It also has some sugars. It has blood, which has albumin. Okay, so absolutely. In fact, this question was a question that was asked many years ago in biomedicine. Okay, today we are growing lab meat, right? How are we growing lab meat? Well, first we 3D print collagen into a scaffold, generally a foam, and then that has holes, and then it's humid because keratin can hold humidity. Collagen can also hold humidity. Keratin plus collagen, we can create gels and flexible systems, artificial growing environments. And then you can deposit cells, and then those cells can grow, and then we can create artificial skin. So the question is, if we invert the process, right? It's not so much that we use skin to create a material, but we can also have a material used to create skin, right? And so if we take that idea, and we're a little bit crazy, because we're all crazy, aren't we? No? Just me? We can say, well, can we generate materials that can generate materials? And the answer is yes, right? That's the whole idea behind the scientific revolution, is building, right? Through structure and things, yeah.
The jacket that you're wearing, is that a hand weaving or can be industrially weaved?
This one is hand woven because of the small quantity and the rapidness we had to produce it for a show. But the goal is for industrial weaving machines and industrial scale production. So also in June we are putting our first industrial production in place.
Okay, thanks.
Volia fer una pregunta, a veure si us heu plantejat, perquè nosaltres quan estem treballant sobre el tema dels cabells humà... Ai, perdó. Sí, jo deia que no sé com heu plantejat aquest tema, que nosaltres quan treballem o pensem en el cabell humà, pensem també en el tema de l'ADN que conté, o diguéssim, el cabell ens representa cadascú de nosaltres de forma individual i a nivell de la regulació, de la transmissió, de la protecció de dades i en fi, encara que no hem començat a estudiar ni a aprofunditzar, ens sembla que aquí hi ha un tema important relacionat amb el que transporta el cabell d'informació. Ho heu plantejat, ho heu pensat, estudiat, coneixeu si existe... Bueno, no sé, el que pot suposar, el que pugui suposar.
Actually, there is no nuclear DNA in cut off hair or broken off hair, because to identify an individual, you need to have the follicles attached to the hair. And without that, we couldn't identify any individual. The maximum we could tell is that the vitamin deficiency or the diet. We couldn't even tell if it's male or female because that structure is identical. So there is no privacy issue unless you really don't want to reveal your diet.
Thank you. I just wonder, since Robert told me, this kind of hair could be illuminated in the whole body. So first, I want to know what's its type of days, and also I want to know, is there another or other type of hairs has imaginative perspective, character like days. That's it.
So as just animals, how we fed them, that's how quality meat or skin we get. So it applies also for our hair. So if we have a good diet, taking enough nutrition, our hair will also reflect how healthy it is or how you have been treating your hair. And also if you think heat can destroy protein, so your hair can be also damaged from heat, from like ironing it or curling it. And of course there are different characteristics for different hair. So if you look at the very, very curly hair type, that has a different characteristic than a very straight Asian hair, for example, or the very light blonde hair from Scandinavia. We do collect all kind of hair mostly from the Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium now. And we did not notice any major differences in the production of the yarns that we could not work with. Volume, of course, is different. So also each salon that we are collaborating with, working with very specific hair types. So the African barber shops, they are very specialized in one type of hair. And their volume that they are cutting off is very little. So we haven't been able to experiment with a huge volume of those salons. And we are mostly focusing on the other salons that they are cutting Asian, European hair.
Well, I want to thank you so much. We're running out of time, but before we close the session, I would like to welcome Carol Fleischmann to perhaps do the closure of the session. And I want to also thank you so much for all your questions, for participating, and of course for our two experts to have joined the panel. So thank you so much. And Carol, I'll just leave it to you.
Bueno, ante todo quería dar las gracias, dar las gracias a Áñez Rosol, a Xavi Vila y David Places del Centro de Artesanía Cataluña y que conjuntamente con el Materfad han organizado estas magníficas jornadas. Yo quería hacer un breve resumen de los conceptos, de lo que significa todo lo que hemos visto y todo lo que han vivido en estos días. Nosotros desde la FAD y también con la colaboración del CCAM organizamos hace poco el Crafts Now, que también no soy habladora pública. Aquí está bien. Las experiencias que tuvimos desde las últimas ediciones del Crafts Now me llevaron a entender que todas estas búsquedas para desarrollar y transformar materiales tienen un propósito fundamental, aquel de hacer un mundo mejor. Un mundo donde crear una conciencia acerca de nuestro medio ambiente es primordial. Un mundo a través del arte y los nuevos materiales y cómo desarrollarlos. Yo particularmente tuve una experiencia que me hace ver que hay como un clic en la mente de todos los que vivimos un poco este proceso. Estuve en un centro de copiado hace poco donde tenían una máquina de fotografía y cortaban las puntas de estas fotos que hacían. Y cuando vi este material de desecho, porque pregunté, ¿y qué hacen con eso? Bueno, yo soy artista textil y dije, con estas puntitas y lo que queda, puedo hacer tapices. Y dije, bueno, nada, un reciclaje de material, porque eso iba a ir a un cesto de desecho. La sostenibilidad para mí claramente no es un tema de moda, es un tema vital. Cuidar el medio ambiente y transformar los desechos industriales y naturales con conciencia y dedicación, como en los casos que hemos visto en estas jornadas, nos llevan a buscar un mundo más sano y más correcto. Creo que todos estos esfuerzos apuntan al futuro que espero será la norma en la mayoría de nuestras sociedades. Gracias.
Bueno, moltes gràcies, Carol, i gràcies a tothom. Donem per acabat aquesta sessió. I volíem només dir que estem estudiant d'obrir un canal de comunicació entre tots aquests que hem estat compartint aquests dies, un canal de comunicació que des del FAT posarem en marxa perquè es pugui continuar comentant, eventualment comptar amb la participació dels talleristes per respondre i avançar amb alguns conceptes i per compartir les fotos, sobretot del taller que s'ha pogut fer amb la Lara, perquè hi ha com un tema de seguiments i volem veure com avança i intercanviem fotos, però serà dirigit als 3 tallers, a compartir tot, si us sembla bé. I ara, us convidem a baixar per descobrir la feina que s'ha fet i de nou nou, agrair a tothom. Moltes gràcies també a l'equip de Materfad.